You're at 109 right now. You're at 109 right now.
109 いいね.
C'est toujours un plaisir d'être là avec vous. Vous écoutez la fréquence 109. Merci à vous.
I'm walking out my door. I get a sight. Can you see it? There it is. One line going that way, one line going that way. Airplanes created those lines. Indeed they did. No question about that. Can you see it? Alright. I'm gonna put my hand in the center there. Alright, so there's one line going down there, and then there's the other line going across there, and they meet somewhere like right there. Yeah. Alright. But see, the lines are disappearing because these lines don't stay up there very long. Let me see. Yeah, you can barely see them now. Okay. Peace. And this is what I'm talking about. The lines are being made as I record right now. Got a little crucifix, a little cross right there. Alright, the airplane is up there. You can barely see. There it is. Can we see that?
You're at 109 right now.
Alright, that needle point, so that airplane right there is creating the line that goes all the way back. It dissipated for some time, but then it's thick over there. Yep. Alright, and then we have the little section that intersects. Alrighty. Yep. Alright, so lines in the sky over Los Angeles. Typical stuff, you know. Typical. When airplanes fly overhead, this is what you get. You get lines in the sky. But there's the moon over there. But if airplanes aren't flying overhead, then where do the lines come from? I looked up once again and noticed another line. I drive my car forward a few feet and look again to realize that those lines intersect, forming a cross or a crucifix. And the sun is conveniently located near the center, depending on where you stand. Right. That's the photo I took, and I was in Nizwa. And this photo has always baffled me because the city of Nizwa does not get a lot of air traffic. And I can't explain why these two lines appeared in the sky if there were no airplanes, you know, flying overhead to produce them, because these are very distinct lines. It was very apparent, very clear. One line went in this direction, one line went in that direction. The only time this really happens is when one airplane flies in one direction like so, and then another airplane flies in the other direction. And so this was very difficult to understand, you know, how it got there, because airplanes don't fly over this city. All right. That's it. That's all that it was. It was just something that I noticed that I could not explain. Where did this cross come from? I shared the photo on Facebook and I got a few responses. So because it's a chemtrail, or at least that's what I called it, a chemtrail or a contrail, Jumani wrote, even in Oman, asking like they you know, those lines even appear, you know, outside of America, because there's this whole thing about these lines being, you know, a government conspiracy to contaminate the skies with chemicals. Check it out on YouTube and Google chemtrails or contrails, or really it's chemtrails. The contrails, condensation trails, That's a typical phenomena that occurs when an airplane travels through the sky. It will leave a line of contrails, condensation trails, hot, cold air, and other things react, forming ice crystals, maybe, and then, yeah, something like that. But those condensation trails or contrails are created by airplanes passing through the skies. So how does this happen? How does a nearly perfect cross appear if there are no airplanes flying overhead to create those contrails? Now, to fact check what I'm saying, you can use this app called Flight Radar. You can use Flight Radar 24, and you can scroll over on the map to the region where this school is located. This is the Nizwa College of Applied Sciences, and if you scroll over that area, that region, then you will find that airplanes don't fly overhead. You'd be hard pressed to find an airplane flying overhead in that region at any given time of the day. And I lived there for 6 months, and I never saw airplanes flying overhead, especially not two airplanes. What I'm saying is there's no regular flight path overhead that would cause, two airplanes to fly overhead to create these lines. It was a miracle. It was like, wow. And that was an apparent thing that I saw and witnessed. All right, so that's what Jumani mentioned. Then Gary says, Allahu Akbar, God is great. I mean, he's clearly saying that this is a miracle. This is God's work here. My aunt chimed in, it is a blessing to see. A blessing. And then my mom said, he lives. So, whether, all I did is state that I saw something. All right. I saw these two lines in the sky, and immediately the responses that I get have a very spiritual resonance, suggesting, this is God's work. Well, I'm glad I was able to share this photo. And, so that's the story. So when I saw this and when it occurred, I posted this picture. Look at this. It's April 6th. It was Saturday, April 6th. Okay, now here's something that's interesting. Because of where I was located, I was in Oman, in Nizwa. And so when I posted this, it says Saturday, April 6, 2019 at 8:48 p.m. That is more than likely the time that it was posted to Facebook in America. But I was 11 hours ahead. So let's see. This had to have been sometime around 7 in the morning, which makes sense because I would leave my home at between 7 and 7:30, like 7:30 at the latest. So 7:30 a.m. and between, so it was more than likely posted at 7:48 a.m. on April 7th, which is a Sunday. There you have it. That's what happened because Sunday began the work week. The work week in Oman is not like it is in America. The work week ends, on Thursday, and the weekend is Friday and Saturday. So the work week begins on Sunday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then you've got Friday and Saturday to enjoy. So those are the facts. The fact is I was going to work on Sunday, April 7th, 2019. I was making my way to work at 7:40 or 7:30-ish, somewhere around that time, a.m., right? And that is in line with, what I would typically do. If I took this picture at 7:48 a.m., then that means that I was getting into work later than I usually get to work. And I imagine I probably left home and no. I was going to say something else. Like, Dr. Saad was my neighbor, and so he and I would leave home. He said no later than 7:30. We would jump in the car together and carpool, short distance, a very short distance, and we'd make it there. But we would leave by 7:30. So this is a perfect alignment. So it looks like I was a little late that day, because if I left at 7:30, probably would have been there at 7:35, 7:38. But I got there at probably 7:48, so I was running 10 minutes late. You know what? Maybe I wasn't late. I remember seeing those lines, being mesmerized, getting into work. And then what I did is I put my bags in the office, and then I exited the office. I came back outside to look at those lines, and then it dawned on me, like, man, those lines have been up there for a while. I've got to photograph them. And then I remember photographing them. So those lines were up there for a long time, long enough for me to drive from home to work, about a 5 to 8 minute drive, and then for me to get out of the car, put my bag in the office, a short trip from the car to the office, and then go back outside to photograph those lines. So, yep, that's what happened. And then again, if airplanes aren't flying overhead regularly, then where did those lines come from? Period. Where did those lines come from? How did they, and then, like, how did they get there? And then, of all days, why on that particular day? Why? All right. So let's look at this. All right. Now we're in the year 2023. 2023. 2, 2, 3. That equals 7, right? So this is the 7-day theory here. I saw this April 7th, 2019. Yes, the picture says it was posted April 6th, but I saw this on Sunday, because remember, Sunday was a work day. Saturday was a day off. So that's just the date that Facebook posted it, because Facebook, my settings are in, Pacific Standard Time or what have you. Anyhow, 7. It was April 7th, 2019 when I saw this. And so Nipsey was murdered on March 31st, 2019. So let's go back. All right. So here we have March 31st. Right. So we have March 31st was a Sunday, and then April 7th was a Sunday. So there you have 7 days right there. So this is the 7-day theory. 7 days after Nipsey was murdered, I saw a cross in the sky while I was in the desert of Oman. That's the story. And then prior to that, on the day that Nipsey was murdered, when I was driving to work to the same location, a car cut me off, and I saw those familiar numbers on the car's license plate. The car's license plate read 1090. My numbers are 109. Alright? 7 days after I saw those numbers, 7 days after Nipsey was murdered, I saw a cross in the sky. This is the 7-day theory. 7. This is the year 2023. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 is the number of completion. So when I saw this, I went to Google. When I, 4 years ago now, when I saw these lines in the sky, I went to Google to search the number 7 across the number 7, because I said, wait a minute, this 7 days ago Nipsey died. What does the number 7 represent? And then it said completion. 7 is the number of completion. 7 days God created the heavens and the earth. Heaven and earth. And so on the 7th day, the Sabbath day, God rested, So he was complete. Completion. So I tried to think about that. What does that mean? And I thought, well, maybe that meant that Nipsey's mission on earth was complete. That's what I thought about. And I mean, yeah, I talk a lot about Nipsey, but I mean, you have to understand, at that time, in 2019, there was a tremendous amount of attention. Well, maybe I personally just, had a lot of attention, gave Nipsey a lot of attention. Maybe I was just personally thinking, like, man, what's this guy up to? What's he doing? Ooh, look, this is happening. He's going to release this album and so forth and so on. So maybe it was my, fascination with what was going on in his life that clued me in, whereas other people were concerned with other things. Maybe. Because Jamal told me, man, I talk too much about Nipsey. So, yeah, maybe that's it. But I push back on that, and I argue that, nah, bro. Nipsey's impact was global. I'm just one of the many who saw and experienced, what I experienced. And I'm just still talking about it because it's profound, This wasn't some little stuff. So anyway, the other videos I found crosses right in Los Angeles. In the other videos. But the point here, everyone, is, yeah, in Los Angeles, finding lines in the sky is a daily activity. Finding lines in a highly air traffic zone, yeah, that's not going to be too difficult. But this photo right here, yeah, it's almost impossible. There's no way to explain it, really. And for the timing of it, it's really unbelievable. All right, I'll leave it at that. Peace and blessings. To be sure, that is one heck of a cross. Now imagine waking up in the desert, seeing something just as apparent, conspicuous as that, and not having any explanation for it. We're in Los Angeles, so airplanes fly overhead all the time. That makes sense for that to be there. You see how clear that is? That's clear as day. Everyone can see that. Yep, they're just showing out right now. See? Airplane over there. Lines in the skies. That's my point. You dig? If there are airplanes in the skies, yes, there are gonna be lines all over the skies. Look at that. Lines all over the sky. But if there are no airplanes in the skies, then where are the lines coming from?
These 7 ships are heading towards the west. 7 was everything to them. So they sent out 7 ships. And we have it in this painting among the Ramesses around 1200 BC, these 7 ships heading towards the west. And we find intimate interconnections between the Egyptians and the rest of the Africans, because people could say, okay, Egypt is separate. Today it is, because the Egyptians are no longer Egyptians, just like the Americans are no longer Americans. You come into this room, it would be hard to find a Native American. You go to Egypt, and it's hard to find an Egyptian. So be very careful about the past and the present. These worlds have changed dramatically. And so we have lots of evidence of their links to the rest of Africa. Sheikh Anta Diop and Theophilo Benga presented, and it's in my new book, more than 100 words in Wolof, a West African language, the language of Sheikh Anta Diop, more than 100 words which are identical in all their forms. That is utterly impossible. UNESCO surrendered. All of these big professors with all their big degrees, and so they had to surrender because these 2 super Africans proved beyond them, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that that's all a lot of nonsense. This is clearly what we say it is, and they surrendered. It has been established beyond the shadow of a doubt. The connections between Egypt and the rest of Africa were extraordinary. We have Lady Lugar reporting on a visit of Egyptian pharaohs to Hausaland, an Egyptian golden breastplate found in an ancient layer in Nigeria, more than 100 Egyptian words in all their forms and variants found in Wolof, Diop's language. The African word for God, what is the word for God? Amen. You use it in your prayers. That's African. Amen. Jesus was in Egypt, you know. Out of Egypt shall I call my son. He wasn't an Egyptian, he was a Jew, but he went to Egypt. He was smuggled out by his uncle because they were killing off the firstborn. That's how Jesus landed up in Egypt. And the 7-day week is Egyptian. Egyptian golden breastplate found in ancient Nigeria. As I say, nearly 100 Egyptian words in all their forms presented to UNESCO. UNESCO had to surrender. They couldn't believe it. Obenga and Diop proved it beyond the shadow of a doubt. They even take the word for God. What is the word for God in Egypt? Amen. You saying it in your prayers, that's African. Amen. Amen and Amen is Egyptian, and Am is West African, comes from that, and Nyam is East African. So you have Amen and Amon Egyptian, and Am West African, and Nyam East African. Don't think everything is lost. There are all sorts of clues left in the past, and that if you learn certain things, you can pick them up. So they can't fool us anymore. And we find the incredible things that they did, the building of the pyramids and all these things, but they also built remarkable ships. And we have evidence, not only they show their ships moving, but they show, it is shown among the Americans, the Popol Vuh, the Bible, the Quiche Maya. I have the Bible, the Quiche Maya, that shows blacks arrived in America before Christ. Champollion supports that, Lefebvre supports that, Sahagun supports that, Sorensen supports that, Sav Soderbergh supports that, Rosalie supports that. I've been through all these documents. They're finding these things and people are just pushing them aside, but not anymore. Then came the clincher. I was invited to, before the Columbus celebration, I was invited to the Smithsonian, the leading scientific institution in this country, hoping to wipe me out before 1992. And my opponent surrendered. Showed them the 7 braids that you can't argue with. No Sculpture in America has 7 braids. 7 is everything to the African Egyptian. He created the 7-day week because he finds there's 7 parts to the human brain, 7 parts to the human eye, 7 notes in the musical scale, 7 primary colors in the rainbow, 7 orifices in the human body, 7 layers of skin. You can't argue with that. So he invented the 7-day week. All this thing about God created the world in 6 days and rested in the 7th, that is taken by the Christians from the Egyptians. Jesus was in Egypt. Even the word Christ, he's not Jesus Christ, he's Jesus the Christ. Christ is an Egyptian word, K-R-S-T, Christ. K-R-S-T, the anointed one. That's how he became the Christ. Don't dismiss him, okay? I'm just pointing out the terms, okay? He was in Egypt, out of Egypt. Read Hosea, out of Egypt shall I call my son. He wasn't born in Egypt, but he was smuggled out in Egypt because Herod was killing the firstborn. And he appears among the Egyptian doctors. And so you get certain evidences like that. And I've checked out this. I have so many sources. Champollion, reporting the 7 ships arriving from across the water. Champollion, Lefebvre, Sahagan, Sorensen, Soderberg, Rossellini, and above all, the Bible of the Quiche Maya. They destroyed so many books in America, but they didn't destroy all the